You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Welcome to another episode of Doing It for the Exposure, the show that wants to do test shoots at your expense before they hire you. I'm your host, Mannequin Blue, and today's special guest is model and singer Vonna Nolan.
Hi guys, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me, Mannequin. You're very good.
How are you doing today?
Really good, actually. Liking the rain. I love a bit of rain on the windows. It's been a nice, relaxing day for once, so I'm really glad to be on the show, though. I'm really loving it so far.
Oh, thank you. So, Vonna, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So I'm like a model slash singer slash dog trainer. So I do a lot of things, but in terms of my modeling, I've been doing that for about 11 years now. Singing, I've been doing that since I was, let's just say, nearly 30 years now. I'm not going to say how old I am, but in and around that. And I kind of like the paradigm of doing a little bit of both. I think, I grew up in a performing family. My mom was a singer. She's retired now. My dad was a sound engineer. My auntie was an actor. She's the granny in the Quality Street ads. If any of you are 90s kids, that's her claim to fame. So yeah, every member of my family is into kind of performing and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I said, sure, why don't I muck in and be like the rest of them? So it's been really, really good. I've been very, very lucky thus far, and long may it last.
It's great when you can conform to something awesome.
It is. It is kind of just the way my family have always been. Like, if you ever come to what we call the Nolan family Christmas, you're expected to come with guitars or a voice or a camera, even an easel and a game of Pictionary or something like that. So we all try and kind of enjoy ourselves and perform to each other, and then take it out into the wide world and see what people think. So it's a really nice background to come from, I suppose.
Oh, that sounds like an awesome family Christmas. Can I come?
You can. Please do. Be on my team for the Pictionary round, because it does get quite involved when you're an artist.
Very detailed.
Oh yeah, we don't even use the timer anymore. It just goes out the window, So
It just becomes more of a draw masterpiece.
That's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Brilliant. So, coming from a creative musical family, that kind of explains your singing, but how did you get into modeling?
How I got into modeling, that's a really weird one. So there's a place in Clontarf/Raheny called St. Anne's Park, and they have a gorgeous kind of rose garden. And I was about 2 years old, and there was a photographer out there for what they call the Rose Festival now. It used to be the Plant Festival. And he was just taking a few pictures of the roses and all that kind of stuff. And I was 2, and I wanted to get in the middle of them and touch everything, as 2-year-olds want to do. And he snapped a photo of me, and it ended up on the front of the Irish Times. And then nothing happened after that. Unfortunately, in my teens, when I was about 14 or 15, I became quite ill. I developed anorexia nervosa, and that was a very hard time for me and my family. But, you get through things. So I went into St. Pat's Hospital under the care of an amazing doctor who was just an absolute star bar. I won't say his name, but we called him Papa G. So people might know him if you've been there yourself. And when I was kind of in recovery, my wonderful dad, Tom, said, do you know what? Like, go on, kid, you could do a few photo shoots. You could have a bit of fun with this. And I was in about 5th year at this point when he started to say this to me. And I said, okay, yeah, Dad, ha ha ha, Dad's just supporting their daughters, and every dad thinks their daughter's the best and the most beautiful and the most fantastic in the world. But the idea did stick with me. So when I went to university in Limerick, I joined the Fashion Society, the Camera Society. I joined the Fashion Society, the Camera Society, the Music Society, and said, listen, the student photographer was there. I said, do you want to do a shoot? I've never done it before, but I'll try it. And that was, literally 12 years ago last week, actually. And from there on in, I just really loved it. I did a lot of hair modeling. So I know Mannequin Blue, you're well experienced with doing your hair modeling as well, pretty much. And so when I came back after university, I met the most amazing hairstylist who I still work with to this day. His name is Mark Whelan Balance, and he works in Balance Salon. And he was a student at the time, and he did the most amazing haircut. He won first prize. That was back in the Dylan Bradshaw salon. And I'd only really done kind of clothes fashion shoots before that. So getting into hair, I was like, wow, there's this huge big world in hair. And I loved it because I've always color, a lot of home bleaching accidents, of course, which happen, certain breaks, and your hair might fall out. But I was never one to be kind of like, oh, I just want my hair long. It's always been kind of a pixie cut, that's where Pixie in my little Facebook name comes from. And yeah, so I started with hair. I loved it. I loved the creativity behind it. I actually learned so much about hair sitting in a salon chair for up to 9 or 10 hours, going from red to blue to green to purple to whatever. And then I discovered a kind of a new genre. So I've never been a really good dancer in that way, but I always used to like, as a kid, to pretend I was really good at it. So I used to be up on my toes, pretending I was like a prima ballerina, and I watched these ballerinas. And then a friend of mine posted that he was looking for a shoot on Facebook, and he's an amazing photographer called Andrea Goetti, and we decided we'd do a shoot, and we did. He's an amazing photographer called Andrea Goetti, and we decided we'd do a shoot, and we did. And Andrea was showing me his portfolio one day, and he showed me what we call fine art nude photography, or implied nude, some people may call it. It can be both, really, if you want it to be. And I kind of fell in love with the genre because I got to become a little ballerina in terms of my posing, getting arms straight and toes pointed, and I fell in love with that genre of modeling. And it's kind of, I've really gone from strength to strength in it. I joined the most incredible collective called the Art Nude Collective of Ireland. So it's a bunch of photographers, a bunch of models, lots of creatives. And we were, at the time when I started, we were meeting kind of every month or every second week, discussing shoots. We'd show everybody on a big projector what, we were working on at the moment. And that kind of led on to my proper journey into professional modeling. So it's great. I really loved it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the fact that you've done so much as well, because like normally with models, they find their niche. So they're, a fashion model or an alt model or an art nude model, and you just do so much with it. It's amazing.
It really is. And actually, just because I'm a fine art nude model, so that for me is, I suppose I'd be the more disciplined side of it, where there's no real makeup involved, you don't get made up or dressed up, obviously. And really, then when you go to alt modeling, I started a page on Facebook with Andrea Goetti called Dublin Alt Models, to give the alt models a little bit of a chance to show what they can do, and show those unconventional looks. Show that, I have big plugs in my ears and I have tattoos. So for fine art nude, that isn't always accepted. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I've never been asked to cover up my tattoos now, to be honest. But, some people like to edit them out. I've no issue with that, really, once I'm kind of asked if that's okay, and then I'm good with that. But Dublin Alt Models is a really fun group. But, if you've got a sense of creativity and you want to dress up, put that makeup on, it kind of gave me a little bit of a two-way street, in the sense that I could just literally do an art nude shoot, and if I wanted to make an outfit or something, I could jump into that alt modeling scene. I've worked in a load of camera clubs, and it's just been great. But I kind of harp on about the art nude side of things because I know it's not for everybody, but it really was for me, especially when I was younger and having had anorexia. I suppose I say had in inverted commas, because it is a bit like, it is a disease and you kind of have to keep watching yourself. So I kind of did the opposite of what most other professional models do, in the terms of I wanted to put on a bit of weight, and it is kind of still there in the modeling world that, you should be thin to do runway, you should be tall to do runway, you should do this, that, and the other, which is why I never did it. I never wanted to do runway, but I could pose. And when you pose, it's not in any way lewd or suggestive, the type of fine art nude that I do, but it gave me so much body confidence to say that this is the way I look. And actually, the more imperfections you have, or the more you embrace your imperfections with fine art nude, the more kind of confident you become. And then you can literally just go back, rock on a cool outfit and do like a camera club shoot. And it's been amazing, really, for me. And then a lot of the time, you know, I would do some stuff and I would sing when I'm posing to get different facial expressions, so that I don't just do duck face, you know, every 2 minutes. Because there is the duck face. And like, if you go into my portfolio, yeah, you'll see a lot of that. But if you see me smiling or doing something else, you know, you can definitely sing through it. And a lot of discipline. And it's helped me with my stamina as well as just my self-confidence. You know, when you pose, you may have to hold that pose for God knows how long to get a shot. And they're not always comfortable positions to hold. And that does not just apply to fire nude, I suppose. But in general, when you're not wearing any clothes, your body is there and you've nothing to work with. So you don't have a big long scarf you can throw up in the air. You can't create that effect. So you're so vulnerable. So you've got to learn how to use your body. And I tell you now, anyone who wants to do fine art nude, definitely stretch before you do a shoot. Please stretch, because you'll be sore. Because like, yeah, like I said, like if you're wearing this gorgeous big long dress, it's so much fun to play with. You can spin it, you can make it move. You can't do that with your body. So it's really taught me quite a lot. And it applies kind of in my day job a bit, you know, there's a lot of stamina involved in what I do. I work for a large animal rescue organization, and like, you know, we clean kennels, we organization, and like, you know, we clean kennels, we pick up poo and all that kind of stuff. It's not exactly conducive to art nude, because you come up with bruises and a few bite marks now and then. Hopefully not. It's not a rare occurrence, but does happen. So, you know, when you're shooting nude, you don't even want bra lines. I remember I got given out to, in the nicest way, by this photographer, and it was the first time I'd worked with him, but his portfolio speaks for itself. So loads of models that I knew had worked with him, and I said, right. So it was about a half an hour drive, maybe 40-minute drive for me. And I had my just normal clothes on, jeans, socks, a bra, and then, you know, when you privately you get undressed into your dressing gown, and he said, you've bra lines all over you. And I was going, you've sock lines, your jeans, you know, you've pant lines there, like from your knickers and stuff like that. And that, he said it in the most appropriate way possible. I'm not even doing him justice, really. And he was very polite, and he said, you know what, we'll shoot now, next time just wear a loose dress. So you learn with like each thing. And every person I meet and have met so far in this industry has just been incredible. And I've been very, very lucky to do that. But, you know, not everyone is so lucky to have the opportunities I've had, but also kind of keeping yourself safe, I have to say, is a very important thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, model safety should always be number one priority, and comfort as well. Because like you said, some of those poses are not easy to do, and you could be holding them for a while and it's painful. And sometimes the photographers just don't get that because they haven't tried it themselves.
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of the photographers I work with would laugh if I tempted them to try some of the poses I do, and they would be very honest and say, no, I wouldn't do it. Like, I'm not a still life model for art drawing or anything like that. I don't know how people do that. But yeah, you're completely right in saying, yeah, they do kind of hurt. But I think if a photographer is really, really good, and they even, especially if you got a really good bond, but I think if a photographer is really, really good, and they even, especially if you got a really good bond and that vibe with your photographer, maybe you've worked together a few times, then they'll kind of say, I can't hold this anymore. Which is kind of why, you know, when last year I had a really bad accident. I actually just fell into a hole walking my dog. So it wasn't anything drastic, but I broke my ankle, and I have 2 gigantic screws in there. So it was this time last year, pretty much now. And it really knocked me, because I was really afraid, can I still get on my toes? Can I still, you know, do the nice, pretty, pointy feet that people like in my genre of modeling? Can I wear high heels? And I know that, like Mannequin Blue, we were kind of talking about that, like wearing high heels is something for us who are smaller people. You know, I'm just over 5 foot. So I would be very afraid to wear high heels at the moment. And literally it took me about a year to kind of really recover and get all the muscle strength back. Weeks kind of in physio and everything after the surgery. So coming back to it, literally as I was kind of getting my confidence back up again, lockdown happened. And modeling during lockdown was obviously not an option, especially with the genre I do, because, you know, no one was allowed to travel more than 2 kilometers, and I'm not going to shoot in my back garden. I have done it once, and there was somebody flying a drone over the back garden.
Oh no.
Yes. So we all ducked for cover, and I'm lucky that the photographer at the time, he'll laugh now, sorry if you don't mind me mentioning you, Paul Brady, you'll remember this, literally threw the blanket over me, was like, come back into the house and we'll go again somewhere else. But it does happen. So like that was the only option, and nobody was really comfortable. You can't wear a face mask when you're shooting unless you're doing like a really cool Skyrim Dark Brotherhood shoot. You know, that would be perfect for lockdown now, where they wear the masks. If anybody's any Skyrim fans, I know you. Yeah, I can. Yeah, we all love a bit of where they wear the masks. If anybody's any Skyrim fans, I know you. Yeah, I can. Yeah, we all love a bit of Skyrim, but all that kind of stuff, you know. So it's been really hard to get back to it. And myself and my partner play in an acoustic band called Nomad Rush as well, and we all come from a full-time musician background before we kind of got normal people jobs, and we would still do it on the side, and like that's all stopped. The shooting has stopped, and like we're gradually getting back to it, but it really has been quite hard. And to get back into it now, like I said, it's such a discipline. Those poses hurt. I'm not going to stand in front of my mirror and practice poses without somebody there, you know. So it has been a little bit tricky during this time. So
yeah, and just to bring it back to something that you'd mentioned about, you know, you were saying if you have a rapport with a photographer that you can say to them, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. But I would even suggest that just for any models listening, to know your limits, because you don't, I know I've done shoots where I'd be wearing big platform boots and I'm climbing trees or I'm climbing up ruins of, you know, old churches or whatever. But at the same time, I remember I was doing a shoot once. I was wearing like platform heels, but they had like a tiny stiletto heel on them. And the photographer said something about, you know, he wanted a jumping pic. And there was another one was like, come on, it'll be really good. And I was like, I'm going to break my ankle. I'm not doing it. So I think there's no shame in knowing your limits and sticking to them.
Oh no, absolutely 100%. Unfortunately, I'm just, when I'm in the zone, I will probably do some silly things. I've had photographers say, please don't do that, Vonna, that looks really dangerous. So I tend to like hurt myself quite easily. Like if one can break one's ankle walking a dog, you know, no matter, imagine what I could do on a shoot. I think it's a really good point there that, yeah, know your photographer. Like, and when I was starting out, I had no clue about who was a good photographer, who was a nice photographer, what even TFP was. You see that term bandied around and like a lot as well. And it's only recently actually, because I have done a lot of model kind of talks to camera clubs, and I've shown them, just because a lot of photographers I find are quite uncomfortable talking to models and vice versa. So that does need, exactly like you said, to be comfortable talking to models and vice versa. So that does need, exactly like you said, to be a really open channel of communication from the start. So you say, I'm not comfortable doing X, Y, and Z. Doesn't matter if that's climbing up on a tree. It doesn't matter if that's maybe fine art nude. It doesn't matter if maybe you have a skin allergy and can't wear certain types of makeup, or you don't like false eyelashes, all that kind of stuff. So there has to be an open channel between a photographer and a model in general. I'm sure you would agree yourself.
Oh yeah, and as well as that, you know, just because you have limits or you have boundaries, that doesn't invalidate your worth as a model.
Absolutely. And you'll find the photographers to work with you, because like I've had so many models, and I've it's actually been very touching, and I've really liked it, that certain new models have come to me and said, Vonna, do you know, what do you think about this kind of shoot? Which photographer should I contact? Does this photographer charge? Is it worth my while? Or this photographer wants to do TFP with me, you know, and educate yourself, because sometimes TFP can be really beneficial. Absolutely, especially if it's a really cool theme and someone says to me, you know, I particularly love animals. So when I heard there was a reptile shoot going on in a camera club, I was like, yeah, get me in there. Can I pay for it? Like, because I really wanted to do that shoot. And obviously there was a photographer who wanted to shoot it. So that was really great. And it was just a bit of like, it was a really fun thing, but the portfolio shots ended up amazingly. I think Mannequin Blue, you did my makeup for that one.
I did actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and we had a great time. And it was just such a pleasure to work with everybody in that situation. Whereas sometimes if it's a fine art nude shoot or something a bit more, I wouldn't necessarily do a TFP unless it was kind of worth my time and the photographer's time in that sense. It has to be mutually beneficial. You need to discuss what you're going to do beforehand. But at the same time, you should kind of maybe do a bit of research, make sure that your photographer kind of has a really good portfolio. Don't be afraid if a model is tagged in a photo. So for instance, say I was tagged in a photo belonging to photographer A, and there was a new model out there, and you clicked on my name and said, listen, you're tagged in this person's photo. What do you think? That's fantastic. Because sometimes it's the photographers who kind of need to be kept safe as well. So it's really good to just make sure that you're getting that kind of chatting point up there, like make sure they talk to you and vice versa, you talk to them. So it's a nice little world to be in, especially in my discipline. But there are little clubs, and I would always recommend people starting camera clubs, because that's where you get some of your really good relationships. And that's where most of mine have come from, to be honest, is clubs or societies or collectives that are kind of already established. And if you shoot there, yeah, there would be kind of benefit to shoot with those people again.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for anyone, it just means time for photos, which is basically you don't get paid for the photo shoot, but it's kind of you give them your time and they will give you portfolio shots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still love to do some TFPs with good friends now. It's really good. But when it comes to my music, it's slightly different. You know, you're there playing for 2.5 hours and you've practiced for a long time. So that's why I like the difference between the modeling and the music. It's really nice to have the music, because that's where you can really let go. You can move as fast as you want. It's something you can actually practice at, especially now during lockdown. Like, I'm expecting loads of bands to come back and be absolutely amazing, because all they can do is practice. They can't gig live yet. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like the paradigm there, in terms of one is really disciplined, the other is really disciplined, but in very different ways. So you're just still using that creative vibe. And it's really helped me through the lockdown. It's just practicing a lot of music where I couldn't, using that creative vibe. And it's really helped me through the lockdown. It's just practicing a lot of music where I couldn't be really practicing my posing as much as I'd liked. So it is absolutely brilliant. And I've been lucky, you know, more than I'd like to count, to be honest, because it does show my age yet again. So I think when you have one artistic discipline, so say you're a painter, you will often get into different mediums that help your initial painting. So you may do lino print, you may do something else like that. So that's why I feel modeling and music really go hand in hand. I'm a model who likes to shoot when I'm listening to music. So if you want to play some music and take your camera, I'll model for you. The music actually really helps me to pose even more. Because like, we all dance around our kitchens. Well, I hope we all do. Yeah. But that's actually, you know, something, if you put music on, especially to a person who's musically inclined, it will get them to pose a lot better. In my case anyway, it helps me pose a lot more, and just in a different way. So it's kind of cool to do it that way and work the two together.
Yeah, and I find that as well, if you have like music or something in the background, it kind of takes the tension out of the air. It makes things a bit more relaxed.
Absolutely. You do live music, like that's a whole real different thing, to be honest. Like, it's when you've worked in the music industry as long as I have, you kind of, yeah, you want to keep it fresh, you want to keep it good. And that's why, you know, the modeling came in another way, not just my dad, but like, I wanted to kind of dance around my kitchen, and I thought I looked pretty cool doing it. So I was like, this could be, you know, really good for a photo shoot. I love this song. Let's see what that can bring out of me when someone's taking pictures. Yeah, I've had gig photographers. So like, my good friend Dan Flynn, who's a music promoter, gave me one of my first gigs in a very famous rock bar in Dublin. It begins with an F and ends with Nibbers. You know what I mean? We've all played there. If you're in the rock scene, we've all done it. And actually, I find, which helped me with my posing for modeling, was when I was playing and when I was singing, I was doing these mad poses. So I think that the photo I sent you there, Mannequin Blue, is literally a photo of me live singing Down in the Mez in Dublin. You there, Mannequin Blue, is literally a photo of me live singing Down in the Mez in Dublin. So it looks like a stage shot, but it's not. And that really helps that organic side of creativity, which I really like. So I think having a few different mediums under your belt as an artist is really, really important. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely. And even just in terms of, if you're going to be a full-time artist and you want to pay the bills, you absolutely have to diversify and put all your fingers in all the different pies you can get.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the big thing is we don't do it because we hate it. You know, it's not a 9-to-5 Excel spreadsheet job. You have to love what you do. It may frustrate you at times, but when you mix multimedia, modeling, acting, singing, you're still always on that stage. And that's such a really nice place to be. And I do feel like really sorry about a lot of musicians at the moment who are just sitting there with their stage has kind of gone away. You know, that's a really just where you really feel in your element. And you might be a really shy person. I'm not the most talkative person outside of modeling or outside of music, but when I'm on the stage, it feels kind of magic to me. So with having that taken away, I'm dying to get back to stuff, but it's given me a really nice kind of time to concentrate on what I want to keep doing and maybe refine the art a little bit. But I think for anyone who's kind of at home at the moment, if you're a singer, if you're a model, why not put it up on social media? Try, you know, shooting yourself with your own camera. So if you've been a model, why not become a photographer? If you've been a singer, why not help somebody else? Do a little online tutorial about singing. That we're still all out there, because I do miss my friends and my bands and all of those people in the industry as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even that's something that I've kind of started trying to get back into it, and just like posting selfies or like drawing a little doodle line, because when you're not doing art, you're only hurting yourself, really. And I know it can be hard, especially with lockdown. It's hard to stay motivated, but like do something silly, you know, put a smiley face in your mashed potatoes and post it. It's still creative.
Well, exactly. Like learn a new skill within your own with your own medium. Because like I'm trying to do a lot of different sides of my modeling. I'm trying to learn how to make dresses. I'm trying to learn to kind of paint shoes and what type of paint to use. All the stuff I wouldn't have been able to do before. So that's been really, really nice to do. I think it's a really good creative outlet to have a bit of time. But if you do miss it, make sure that you keep your presence known, is what I would say. I have so many musician friends who are like, I haven't taken the August Bank Holiday weekend off in 20 years, because that's a time for cover bands and different bands in pubs and clubs and different areas. So like, why not put it up on YouTube? Let your band still kind of live on and show all the practice that you've been able to do as well. Because I think that's live on and show all the practice that you've been able to do as well. Because I think that's what I'll be planning to do in the next few weeks as well.
Yeah, and this is something that we've seen people doing is, like you said, models are doing their own photo shoots on their phones and posting them. And then you have musicians who are doing like Facebook Live videos or Zoom gigs or something. And it's just like, I know we had Fee on the show and she was talking about the fear of being irrelevant and saying, look, you know, if you need a break, take a break. You're not going to become irrelevant. But maybe it's not about being afraid of being irrelevant. Maybe it's just keeping yourself busy.
I think it is. For me, like I said, you know, I like my stage because I have two different sides to me. So if I'm in front of a camera or if I'm up singing or playing an instrument, you kind of switch off for that few minutes. And that's what I miss. Off stage and off the camera, I'm a very different person. So it's really helped for me to just perfect the arts that I'm doing now. But yeah, you do miss it, but it's even just performers want to be. We want to be heard, and there's a reason, but there's so many different outlets now. And if anybody does have any different ideas, I think it's a nice little thing to maybe collaborate together. So if somebody's got a camera, somebody's got a paint palette, somebody's got canvas, let's do something. Why not do a Zoom call and try and do it that way? I know my friend who's in Dublin Gospel Choir, they were out in the rec garden singing from like 4 meters away from each other, and it sounded amazing. So there's no harm in doing it, but don't feel just because it's not in front of an audience that it's not valid.
Yeah, absolutely. Even just do it for yourself. You're still valid. You're still doing amazing things.
Exactly. And like, 'cause if I didn't do it, I'd go mad. Like my job takes a lot out of me mentally, physically, everything. And I love it. It's my life. But to be honest, you know, I still need that kind of exit to do something really creative because it's not me without it.
Yeah, and just to touch a little bit on that, I know we're going off topic a little bit, but this is too good not to have on the show. So a lot of the artists that come on, they usually have a day job as well to pay the bills, but yours is quite interesting.
Oh, interesting is the word. Yeah. I love my day job. It's not a job, it's a vocation. So it's definitely a vocation for me. So again, like I said, I work with one of Ireland's largest canine rescue organizations. I'm one of the head dog training people in that organization for dog training classes for anyone. But I've worked in the centre for a good few years now, and I've learned so much about it. I'm not going to say where it is, but you know, if you want to head near Finglas, you probably see us there. We have a lot of yellow going on. It's been amazing. It really has. And it's a really tough job, but it's an absolutely awesome job as well. You have the most amazing days, you've got sad days. You've really got to be quite open to taking on new challenges. You've got to be physically fit to do it, but it is the most rewarding job in the world, helping. There's so many rescues all over the country who are all working to the same goal as we are, to try and basically put ourselves out of business. Any successful rescue wants to literally lose their job, because the one day we don't have any more stray or abandoned dogs is the day we're like, yes, we've done it. So yeah, please put us out of business, in that sense is what I'd say. But yeah, so I'm a trainer. I've worked with animals for pretty much as long as I've been singing. So I rode horses, I trained horses, I studied equine science until I went to America and I broke my back off a horse. So again, a little bit of a confidence knock. Now, don't get me wrong, I still get up and trot around, canter around, stuff like that. But that kind of got me into dog training. They're fascinating, and I love that they don't talk. When you need someone to go grab a dog or a cat, I love anything with a tail. So it's not just dogs for me, to be honest. But yeah, we get in so many dogs every year. We're not government funded either. So that's really, really important to note. But not a lot of charities are. And at the moment, there's been this massive big boom with lockdown puppies. And with lockdown puppies, it's like people have to go back to work again and they don't know what to do. So we're doing loads of online classes, trying to use every resource we can. But, that no day is ever the same where I work. And I'm so lucky. And a lot of people say, I love dogs, I want to go into that industry. That's absolutely fantastic if you do. Like I said, it's not conducive if you want to do some modeling, because you're going to come back covered in bruises if you're like me, banging yourself off gates, and you're cleaning, scrubbing. You walk a lot, which is actually something I love, but we walk rain, sun or shine, snow, no matter what, we keep walking those gorgeous dogs. But it's the most kind of rewarding thing I've ever done, because they have no voice, they have no home, and we are their home. And I'm so proud of Dundeel for what they've done recently. They've taken all their dog advertisements off. I did have a bit of a cry, because it's been something we're fighting for a long time. Not just us, but every rescue. Sometimes we say the dogs in our care, yeah, they may have no official home or official mum and dad, but they have literally 35 mums and dads who care about them even more. And we never put a healthy dog down either. So it's just something that I do, but it's obsessional. So that's why I have to do my art, because if I was to dwell on every sad case we get in, mange, potential abuse, starvation, anything like that, abandonment, if I didn't have an artistic outlet, I don't know if I would be okay. So sometimes I'll come home and I'll play my guitar or have a sing song with my family. But that's why art is so important, to just keep you sane in that kind of thing. But we do see a lot of success stories, and they're what mean the most to us.
Yeah, and I know that I harp on a lot about, but also take care of the animals. Don't get a dog if you're not willing to welcome it into your family. Don't get a dog for Christmas. It's just a terrible idea, because, usually they end up in a shelter, and we want them to have lovely homes.
Absolutely. And what I would say, if you are looking into getting a dog, there are so many resources online from the organizations like rescues like ourselves or any other rescue in Ireland, who will give you the information about getting a dog and how to prepare it properly and all that kind of stuff. So it is really important to do your research before you make that potential 15-year commitment. Hopefully it's more than 15 years. I'm just going on the average lifespan of a dog. So I hope mine will last for more than 15 years anyway. She's 13 and a half. My little Labrador cross, Indy. And she was a really good case. We found her running around Limerick when I went to college, just right before my first photo shoot. And I actually was late. It's the only photo shoot I've ever been late to, was because of my dog. So she was running up and down the driveway of the University of Limerick. And if anyone knows it, it's a really long driveway into the college. And I thought she was a lurcher. So like a greyhound type cross. And then when she turned around, I realized she was a lab cross. She was 9.2 kilos. She's now a healthy 24 kilos, which is her ideal weight. And we don't know where she came from. But luckily, we went and got her chipped, and nobody claimed her. She wasn't chipped anyway. She wasn't spayed or neutered. So that's really important to do as well. But if anybody is going to get a dog, please just give any charity a call. They're going to give you loads of advice, because it's so, so important. And if anyone is back shooting, or playing a bit of music, and you want to maybe donate to whatever you need to, I really encourage you to help the animal shelters at the moment, because they're not allowed to take the same amount of donations in terms of bedding or food that they can. So that would be really cool if you did.
Yeah, so everybody listening, get on it, do it. We're not the only ones suffering. So, Vonna, where is the best place for people to keep up to date with you?
Depending on what you'd like, I would say my Facebook page is Vonna/model and Nomad Rush. So Nomad Rush is spelled a bit funny. So it's Nomad as in NOMAD and then space Rush. And that's on Facebook and YouTube. You can do Nomad Rush Band as well. We do a lot of kind of fun covers and stuff like that. But if anyone wants to see some of the Art Nude Ireland stuff, you can go on to artnudeireland.ie.
Brilliant. And as always, we will put the links in the description so that you don't have to search too hard. But definitely go look at Vonna's work. She's amazing. She does great stuff, and support her and support the dogs and everyone. So is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't talked about yet before we go?
I think we're absolutely brilliant. And to be honest, it's been an absolute pleasure being on the show. The one thing, when you're starting to model, don't feel any pressure. Just enjoy your shoots. When you start to play your first gig as a musician, just enjoy it. Make sure you've done your rehearsal. But for both modeling and music, always arrive on time, if not early, and be prepared. If someone had given me that advice a long time ago, I would have been a little quicker for me to get a bit more popular than I was at the start. So just make sure that you're always on time, you're always polite. If you're not comfortable, that's absolutely fine. But if you're a musician, be nice to the sound engineer.
He's the one who makes you sound good.
He does. He controls you. So not the other way around. But I wish I'd kind of grown up knowing that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And a professional attitude goes a long way.
Absolutely. Always be professional and try not just to, jump in there without your practice. So no matter what your discipline, practice, and then go ahead and absolutely rock it and enjoy it. It's the most important thing is you enjoy it.
100%. Vonna, it's a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And for everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode of Doing It for the Exposure and would like to hear more in the future, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at DIFTE Podcast. You can also check out our stream on nerdtoknowmedia.com. We stream weekly on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.